Okay, we're unraveling a truly thrilling historical detective story today. We're looking at a fascinating case study by Dr. Jeffrey Hudon on the identification of biblical Bethel. It's this incredible mystery where modern archaeology and ancient texts just completely collide. See, we know from history that Bethel was massive, but for decades, the physical evidence in the ground just didn't match the historical record. So how do you find an ancient city that history says was definitely there, but the dirt says wasn't? Let's crack open the case file. Okay, let's dive into this. 669. Now that's not just some random number. That actually represents the staggering amount of times Bethel is mentioned in the Old Testament. It is by far the most frequently referenced geographic location in all of these ancient texts. When a place is mentioned almost 700 times, you know it isn't just some roadside rest stop. It's the absolute vital center of gravity for the people, the politics, and the religion of that entire era.
So here is our dossier for this explainer. First, Bethel's biblical significance. Second, the Golden Calf Sanctuary. Third, excavating the site of Bethene. Fourth, the missing shrine mystery. And finally, number 5, Jabal Aratas and Luz.
All right, Section 1, Bethel's biblical significance. Basically, the scene of the crime.
So Bethel was situated just north of Jerusalem on the central Benjamin Plateau. And you know, in the ancient world, geography is destiny, right? Bethel sat squarely at a massive crossroads. It was perfectly positioned along the main route for anyone traveling north or south, and it connected to a major route heading west right out to the Mediterranean coast. Throw in a highly reliable, well-watering spring, and bam, you've got the perfect recipe for a major, enduring settlement.
I mean, just think about how deeply embedded this place was in early religious memory. We start with Abram building an altar. Then, famously, Jacob camped there, dreamt of a ladder reaching to heaven, and literally named the place Bethel, which means house of God. Centuries pass. It serves as a sanctuary during the period of the Judges. Then it becomes a huge royal cultic center under King Jeroboam, before eventually being utterly destroyed by King Josiah. Bethel wasn't just a city. It was literally the religious heartbeat of the region for generations.
Moving on to Section 2, the Golden Calf Sanctuary. Let's look at the motive.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the pure political survival at play here. Around 930 BC, the kingdom split into two, Judah down in the south and Israel up in the north. Well, the new king of the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, had a huge problem. The main unifying temple for all the tribes was in Jerusalem, which was now enemy territory in the rival southern kingdom. Jeroboam knew that if his people kept traveling south to worship, they'd eventually rebel against him. He had to stop them.
So to break that connection, Jeroboam essentially set up religious blockades. Instead of Jerusalem in the south, he strategically placed alternative shrines at the very northern and southern borders of his kingdom, specifically at Dan and at Bethel. And to make these sites super compelling to the people, he fashioned golden calves. This was calculated syncretism. He was blending traditional Canaanite religion with biblical faith to create a royal counterfeit to the Jerusalem temple. Overnight, Bethel was no longer just an ancient altar, it was a massively funded royal sanctuary.
So, with all of this rich, documented history, a major crossroads, centuries of reverence, and a massive royal sanctuary funded by a king, we have to ask the ultimate question: where exactly is Bethel today? This is exactly where our ancient textual history directly collides with modern archaeological investigation. Which brings us to Section 3. Excavating the site of Beit In, our prime suspect.
For over a century, the scholarly consensus on this was pretty much overwhelming. Back in the 19th century, explorers Edward Robinson and Eli Smith realized that a local Arab village named Beit In was actually linguistic corruption of the ancient name Bethel. Plus, ancient sources, like the 4th century works of Eusebius, gave specific distances that perfectly matched Beit In's location. Later, heavyweights of archaeology, like William F. Albright, looked at the data and fully confirmed it. Topographically and linguistically, Beit In just had to be Bethel.
But, here's where our detective story hits a massive brick wall. In the 1920s and 30s, Melvin Grove Kyle and William F. Albright dug at Beit In. In the 1950s, James Kelso went back and dug there again, and they were specifically hunting for Jeroboam's massive royal shrine. The result? Nothing. Absolutely zero trace of the sanctuary. Now sure, their excavation methodology wasn't perfect, but missing an entire royal temple complex, that is a glaring omission. Section 4, the missing shrine mystery. Let's take a closer look at this glaring anomaly.
And this anomaly, it became completely undeniable in 1967. An Israeli team started excavating at Dan, which, remember, was the location of Jeroboam's other border shrine. And guess what? They actually found it. They uncovered a beautifully preserved shrine exactly where the text said it would be. Because Bethel was the premier royal sanctuary directly bordering Judah, its temple should have been even larger and more elaborate than the one at Dan. Meaning, if Dan's shrine exists, Bethel's shrine absolutely has to exist.
It's a huge paradox, right? If Beit Eden is Bethel, where on earth is the royal sanctuary? The lack of evidence in the ground was so frustrating that some scholars, like David Livingston, actually tried to relocate Bethel entirely. They argued that if the temple isn't at Beit Eden, well, then Beit Eden cannot be Bethel. The academic battles here got really fierce. For a long time, the case was completely stalled.
All right, Section 5, Jebel Aratatis and Luthless. Let's finally solve this case.
And this brilliantly illustrates how sometimes you just need a fresh perspective. The breakthrough didn't come from a traditional archaeologist digging deeper into the same old holes. It came from an Israeli geographer, Zev Vilnai, who decided to simply zoom out and look at the broader landscape. He shifted his gaze just 1 mile north of Beitin to a mountain called Jebel Aratas. It has this high elevation with commanding views all the way to the Mediterranean. Right on its summit is a massive tumble of unexcavated rubble, and the usable area up there is huge, roughly 200 by 100 meters. Literally the absolute perfect real estate for an elaborate royal high place.
But it's not just geography, it's cultural memory. Even without a modern excavation, a simple surface survey of Jebel Aratas shows it maintained immense religious gravity across multiple centuries and cultures. I mean, look at this. It features an ancient sacred oak tree, New Testament-era Jewish rock-cut tombs, an Islamic shrine, and even a medieval Crusader castle. For thousands of years, completely different cultures all recognize this specific mountain as holy ground.
So, how does this mountain actually connect back to our missing city of Bethel? Well, the final key was hiding in plain sight in the ancient text itself. For years, scholars had been kind of confused by two names used in the ancient sources, Bethel and Luz. Sometimes they seemed to be the exact same place, but at other times they seemed distinctly different. The secret was actually hiding in the grammar of Joshua chapter 16, verse 2. Okay, let's break down this linguistic clue. The text describes a border going out from Bethel to a place called Luza. That final ah sound is a directional hey in Hebrew. It literally means the border is moving away from Bethel and in the direction of Luz. This completely proves that Bethel and Luz were not stacked right on top of each other. They were distinct, separate, but intimately connected places. Luz was likely the high place, the actual religious sanctuary up on the mountain of Jebel Aratas, while Bethel, the residential city, was down below at Bashim. So to wrap up this explainer, we can finally say that the ancient text and the modern dirt actually do align perfectly. The mistake was just a human assumption. We assumed the city and the temple were in the exact same footprint. In reality, the residential city of Bethel was at Beitin, right where early scholars thought it was. But the royal sanctuary, the high place of Luz where Jacob dreamt and Jeroboam built his golden calf, was located adjacently, right up on the mountain. The archaeologists simply hadn't dug on the right hill. This case study leaves us with a fascinating and, frankly, kind of provocative final thought. If an entire royal temple complex could go completely missing for over a century, simply because brilliant scholars were looking just 1 mile too far to the south, well, what other massive historical discoveries are waiting just 1 mile down the road from where we are currently looking? Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.